Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Note your appearances, please."
Ms. Murray said, "Good morning, Your Honor." Juliana Murray, Ryan Finkel, Micah Ferguson and Justin Horton for the United States.
Mr. Kamraju said, "Good morning, Your Honor." Siddhartha Kamraju and John Kilgard on behalf of Mr. Gua and Mr. Gua is with us at counsel table.
The court said, "Please be seated. I received a letter dated July 2, 2024, in which the government requests that I strike a portion of the testimony of Raymond Dragon, ECF number 389. Mr. Dragon said, "My understanding is that the $350 million includes the $200 million of new GTV shares that were issued by GTV and includes shares that were owned by Soraka that were sold, because there was a very large investor interest in this offering." Transcript at 4893. Mr. Dragon goes on to say that GTV sold 200 million shares, and the remaining 150 million shares came because Soraka sold some of the GTV shares it already had. The government objects to two aspects of this testimony. First, the government argues that Mr. Dragon has no personal knowledge that Soraka was the source of the extra 150 million shares, and that he did not disclose reviewing any sources that contained this information. I would like the defense to address this issue by Friday, July 5th. Second, the government contends that Mr. Dragon's testimony implies that there was a single very large investor who was interested in Soraka's shares of GTV. I did not interpret Mr. Dragon's testimony that way. I understood him to say that there was very large investor interest. In other words, from multiple investors, which precipitated the sale of the extra 150 million shares. So my question is this correct? Is my interpreter correct? And if so, would the parties stipulate to my deletion from the transcript of the word "et" before very large investor interest?
Mr. Kamraju said, "From the defense's perspective, Your Honor, your interpretation is correct. And we don't have an objection to striking the word "a."
Mr. Ferguson said, "We have no objection to striking that word either, Your Honor. But we maintain our position that that full section of the testimony was improper and should be stricken."
The court said, "I will hear then from the defense by the 5th on that issue generally."
Mr. Kamraju said, "No problem, Your Honor. We'll file a response to the letter by then."
The court said, "Is there anything else?"
Mr. Kamraju said, "Not from the defense, Your Honor."
Ms. Murray said, "Your Honor, just a point on scheduling. We understand there are 7 defense witnesses left. I expect we'll get through 4, possibly 5 today, which will leave us with 2 or 3 for Monday. And then of course if the defendant chooses to testify, that would extend the trial into probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. We understand that the court is going to sit full days during deliberations and instructions. We would ask, if it works for the court, if it works for the jury, if we could sit full days all of next week. Obviously everybody is very motivated to get this trial finished, suffice it to say. And we do anticipate that the additional 7 witnesses will take some time. We know instructions and the charge will take some time in this case. And of course summations after a 6 or 7 week trial will take some time. We want to make sure that there's sufficient time for the jury to get the case and consider the case, including in the event that Mr. Gua testifies."
Mr. Kamraju said, "If it's fine with the court and the jury, it's fine with the defense, Your Honor."
The court said, "I am going to tell the jury that we are sitting full days starting Monday. Has Mr. Gua decided whether he's going to testify?"
Mr. Kamraju said, "No, Your Honor. I plan to meet with him this weekend to confer."
The court said, "Okay. Alrighty. So if that's it, then we will get started at 9:30.
Mr. Kamraju said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Recess. Jury not present.
The court said, "I did not hear what you said."
Mr. Ginsburg said, "My name is Peter Ginsburg on behalf of Mr. Lee. Is that what Your Honor asked?"
The court said, "I wanted to ask what you were saying. You just identified yourself as counsel to the witness. Is that correct?"
Mr. Ginsburg said, "That's correct, Your Honor."
The court said, "So you're going to be in the gallery. Is that correct?"
Mr. Ginsburg said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, "All righty. Please have the jurors come in.
The law clerk said, jury entering.
Jury present.
The court said, please be seated. Good morning, jurors. I just wanted to remind you that tomorrow and Friday you will have off. We're going until 5 today. But come Monday we are going to be going till 5 every single day going forward. Alrighty. Please call your next witness.
Ms. Shrofa said, good morning to everyone. The defense calls Mr. E.
Jianhu Yi, called as a witness by the defendant, having been duly sworn, testified as follows.
The court said, please state your name and spell it.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may I ask the court to instruct the witness that he may now put his hand down?
The court said, yes, you can put your hand down, sir. And I need simultaneous interpretation.
The interpreter said, Your Honor, you want me to do simultaneous interpretation?
The court said, for the witness, yes.
The interpreter said, I'm sorry, Your Honor. The interpreter is a little confused. I thought we do consecutive for the witness, but we do simultaneous for the defendant.
The court said, no, we're doing simultaneous for both, otherwise it's going to take us a very long time.
The interpreter said, then we need to bring him a set receiver as well. We need to bring him another set of equipment. We were advised by our office to do consecutive. The interpreter said, Your Honor, the jury won't be able to hear the interpretation.
The court said, that's perfectly fine. So the interpreter is going to interpret in English and make whatever statements that he makes out loud. In other words, both of them have a microphone.
The interpreter said, We're exploring, Your Honor. Give me 1 second. We're told to do consecutive.
The court said, no, always simultaneous.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, while this is going on, can me and Ms. Schroff briefly approach?
The court said yes.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, we could have one interpreter with one microphone and that would settle the problem. So I don't understand what the issue is.
Ms. Shrofa said, I don't either, Your Honor. We've been in touch with the interpreter's office last weekend. And I did all I could to help them out in terms of getting them ready for. I previewed for them what his testimony would be so that it would go smoother.
The court said, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. What's the issue?
Ms. Shrofa said, Nutra is in the courtroom if the court wants to question him.
The court said no, absolutely not.
Mr. Finkel said, Sorry, Your Honor. I just want to avoid an issue that arose with another witness's testimony. I know these are court-appointed interpreters that work for the court system. I believe they might need to be sworn in under the rule that Your Honor exercised last time. That's just why I wanted to do this at sidebar. Frankly, I'm not sure what the court's position is or the defense's position is on that.
The court said, absolutely.
Ms. Shrofa said, that's fine, and I checked with Erica from the court interpreter's office. I confirmed that these are all people who translated before. I think they've all been sworn in previously. But of course I have no objection to them being sworn in.
The court said, could we get the interpreter's oath, please?
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, if the logistics are complex with this witness. Should we just call the next witness in the meantime?
Ms. Shrofa said, no.
The court said, there is every single day in courtrooms all over the United States. You have one interpreter with a microphone, so all of this question equipment is not necessary. And if they can't resolve it among themselves, I will direct them to do it in a way that it's done elsewhere. If you'll have the interpreters step up, please. Just the Mandarin language interpreters. I want the Mandarin language interpreters, please step up. Okay, we're going to do the formal oath at this time. Go ahead.
The law clerk said, Do you solemnly swear that you will well and truly act as an interpreter and give a true translation in this matter now before the court, so help you God?
Interpreter sworn.
The court said, if you would please identify yourself.
The interpreter said, Barbara Robertson. I'm a Mandarin interpreter, federal court professionally qualified interpreter. The interpreter said, Mandarin interpreter, Tuohung, Tuohung. The interpreter said, Shifeng, Shifeng. I'm contract to interpreter for the federal court and New York State courts.
The court said, "Thank you very much. You may step back."
Mr. Finkel said, "There's no objection, I take it, from the defense as to the qualification of the interpreters?"
The court said, "No objection as to the qualification?"
Mr. Skirek said, "No objection."
The court said, "Anything else?"
Mr. Finkel said, "No. Thank you."
Continued on next page. In open court, jury present.
The court said, "Is Ms. Schroff present?"
Mr. Skirek said, "I'll be back 1 second."
The court said, "So apparently there's one additional piece of equipment that we need. Is it possible to call a different witness while we wait for that?"
Ms. Schroff said, "Your Honor, we didn't tell the witness to come until an hour later."
The court said, "All right. I apologize, members of the jury, for the delay. All right. Ready to go, Ms. Schroff? If the interpreter would give the spelling of the witness's name, please. Why?"
The interpreter said, first name, Jianhu, last name.
Direct examination. By Ms. Schroff.
Good morning, Mr. E.
Good morning.
Mr. E, were you persecuted when you lived in China?
In Suzhou City, Jiangsu Province, I was persecuted, yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, in what years did you live in China?
From 2005 to 2022, I lived there.
Did you go to high school there?
Yes, I was in high school, and I'm in university as well.
Ms. Schroff said, "I apologize, Your Honor. Now Mr. Kwok cannot hear what's going on."
The court said, "I'm sorry."
Ms. Schroff said, "Our client is unable to hear what's going on."
The court said, "So interpret the question and the answer out loud."
Ms. Schroff said, "Your Honor, I believe the additional equipment is right on its way. The audio expert is here. May we have just 1 minute to resolve it?"
The court said yes. "All righty. You may continue then."
By Ms. Schroff.
Mr. E, did you go to school in China?
Yes, I started in China.
Could you tell us what you studied?
Simply speaking, I graduated from Harbin Technical University with master degree.
And what was your master's degree in?
Industrial design.
And were you living in China in October of 2020?
You mean 2020?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you some questions, Mr. E, about October 21st and the time frame thereon. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. E, could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury what happened on October 23rd?
I didn't understand the time. Can you repeat the date?
October 23rd of 2020.
That day there are 2 policemen came to my company and took me away.
And where was your company located?
In Shanghai.
And what was the name of your company?
It's called Schaeffler Shanghai Trading Company.
And around what time did these people come and take you away?
Roughly about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And how many people came around 2 o'clock in the afternoon to your workplace to take you away?
2 people.
And how were they dressed?
They in plain clothes.
And do you know who they were?
Yes, I knew.
Who did you know them to be?
Because when they saw me, they did the self-introduction. They're the police from the National Security.
And what is the National Security?
Ministry of National Security.
And what does the Ministry of National Security in China do?
That I'm not sure.
Did they show you anything when they approached you at your office?
He showed me their badge.
And what badges? What did the badges tell you when you saw their badges?
That I really wasn't sure.
I'll move forward. Did they ask you to do anything and what? I'm sorry?
They asked me to go with them.
And did you know where they were going to take you?
I wasn't sure at the time.
Could you have refused to go with them when they asked you to go with them on October 23rd?
No, I couldn't.
Why not?
'Cause in China, when police do their work, if I don't do what they ask me to do, there will be serious consequence.
And what is a serious consequence according to you?
I didn't know exactly, but maybe put me in prison or something else.
Mr. E, on October 23rd, did you know why the Ministry of National Security Police was looking for you?
I wasn't sure at the time.
Were you expecting them to show up on October 23rd?
2 days ago, they called through our HR company and told me they would come to see me in 2 days.
Were you worried when you heard about that from the HR in your company?
I was really worried.
Did you tell anyone that the National Security Police was attempting to speak to you?
Other than my wife, I didn't tell anyone.
Why did you not tell anyone?
Because I think it's a secret thing. It's not easy, not convenient to tell other people.
Were you afraid of any consequences if you had told anyone that the national police was trying to contact you?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
The court said, if you'll step up, please.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, Ms. Schroff, I need you to pick up the pace. Everybody knows the Chinese government is horrific. Oppressive, authoritarian, totalitarian. Awful. They get it. Move on.
Ms. Schroff said, okay.
Continued on next page. In open court, jury present.
Mr. E, did you know why they were looking for you?
Mr. Finkel said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Why they were looking for you?
The court said, sustained.
Did you have an understanding as to why the national police was there?
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Schroff said, Your Honor, I haven't asked that question.
The court said, I believe the question was asked.
Ms. Schroff said, I don't believe so, Your Honor.
The court said, move on.
Did they question you about things on October 23rd?
Yes, they did.
And what was the most specific topic that they asked you questions about?
They asked about I invested in GTV, G-Series.
And did the National Security Police ask you, first of all, I take that back. Could you describe for the jury where they took you?
They took me to a hotel next to my workplace.
Were you handcuffed?
No.
Were you allowed to leave?
I wasn't allowed.
How long were you held there?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
The court said, you may answer.
About 11 hours.
From what time to what time?
11 hours total.
From what time to what time?
From 2 o'clock, 2:30 to the next morning at 1:30.
And Mr. E, did the National Security Police let you keep your telephone?
They didn't.
Were you able to call your wife from any other phone line in the hotel?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
The court said, I'll let you lead on these questions, please.
Did you have any communication with your wife for those 11 hours?
No.
Describe the hotel room that you were seated in.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor.
The court said, Ms. Schroff.
Ms. Schroff said, Yes, Your Honor.
The court said, I would like you to heed what I stated at the sidebar.
Ms. Schroff said, Then the government objects to the leading. Here.
The court said, No, I don't think so. I think we can lead.
Mr. E, were there video cameras in the room?
The court said, Isn't it true that there were video cameras in the room?
Isn't it true, Mr. E, there were video cameras in the room?
There was a camera there.
How many officers were in the room?
In the room, there were 3 of them waiting for me.
And what were they trying to do?
They were waiting for me to come in.
After you came in, what did they ask you to give them?
They confiscate my phone.
And what did they do after confiscating your phone?
Then they ask me to sit opposite from them.
And do what?
They start asking me questions.
About what?
First they ask me if I know why I was there.
What else did they ask you? Did they ask you questions about your Gmail account?
Yes, they did.
What questions did they ask about your Gmail account?
They tried to open up my Gmail and Twitter an account with a GTV.
And did you have a GTV account on your Gmail?
My GTV account is the Gmail email address.
And did they ask you questions about that connection?
Yes, they did.
Mr. E, is it illegal to have a Gmail account in China?
Strictly speaking, yes.
Did you consent to the national police reading your emails?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
The court said, Leading questions, Ms. Schroff. You know what the answers are, so lead.
Am I correct, Mr. E, that you did not consent to the reading of your Gmail account by the National Security Police?
Can you repeat?
You did not tell the National Security Police that they could look into your Gmail account, correct?
I did not agree, but they read it anyway without my consent.
Did the National Security Police tell you that if you did not tell them the truth, they will take you to another place, and in that other place, they were sure you would tell them the truth?
The court said, You may answer.
That's correct.
Did the National Security Police show you a 20-page case file?
Yes.
Was that a case file they had prepared on you?
Yes.
Did you have to acknowledge the case file?
Yes.
Did they make you acknowledge it by putting an ink fingerprint on each page of the 20-page document?
Yes.
Did they tell you you were facing 3 to 5 years in prison for investing in GTV, which they considered to be their enemy?
Yes.
Mr. Finkel said, Objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Did they tell you that they could easily jail you, but they prefer that you work with them?
Correct.
Did they tell you that from now on you're going to do what we tell you to do?
Correct.
Did they ask you questions about your family members who lived in the People's Republic of China?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that they knew your address?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that there was no place for you to hide?
Yes, they did.
Did they release you after 11 hours of questioning?
Yes, they did.
Did you take a cab and go back to your office?
I came back to my office and drive my own car home.
And did you meet with them a second time on October 27th of 2020?
Yes.
Did they contact you by WeChat?
Yes.
Did they tell you to bring your G shares certificate with you to meet with them?
Yes, they did.
Did you take your G certificates with you?
Yes, I did.
Did they take the certificates from you?
Yes, they did.
And did they tell you during that meeting that the investment was all bogus and that you will lose your money?
Mr. Finkel said, I object to that.
The court said, overruled. Continue.
Can you repeat?
Did they tell you that you were going to lose all your money because GV Investments was all bogus?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that you were wrong to delete your Twitter?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that you could not delete your Twitter anymore?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that you could not talk to anybody if they contacted you from outside the People's Republic of China?
Yes, they did.
And did they tell you that if anybody did try to contact you, you had to tell the National Security Police about that contact immediately?
Yes.
Did the National Police contact you again on November 30th?
Yes.
Was this the third time that you met with them?
Yes.
During the November 30th meeting, did they tell you that you committed a crime?
The first time they did already told me that I was committing a crime.
And what crime had you committed?
Investment in the hostile organization that's trying to overtake the national government.
Did they tell you if Guoguay took your money?
They said Guo Wangguay defraud me of my money.
Did they tell you to do legal research about American law?
Mr. Finkel said, Objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. Continue.
Can you repeat?
Did they tell you to research American law?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you to file a lawsuit against Mr. Guo?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that Mr. Guo took your money to eat, drink, play, have fun, ride luxury cars, and enjoy himself in the sun?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you that he was doing all of this with your money?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you to contact Dodo and use Dodo website to file a complaint against Mr. Guo?
Yes, they did.
Did they tell you you had to try and get your money back?
Yes, they did.
And did they tell you that you had to think about it and they would be back in contact with you within a very few days?
Yes.
Did they then contact you on December 4th of 2020?
Yes.
On December 4th, did they tell you to send a letter about GV investments?
Yes.
Did they tell you to write to the GV Investment Committee and ask for a withdrawal of all of your investment?
Yes.
Did they draft a letter and ask you to sign it?
What letter am I supposed to sign?
Did they ask you to write a letter to the esteemed Investment Committee of GDV?
Yes, they did.
And did they tell you to write that you were seeking return of your entire investment of 180,000 United States dollars?
Yes, they did.
Did they make you draft a letter in front of them?
Yes.
And did they tell you to write the same letter so that you could get your investment in G Dollar and G Club back?
Yes.
Did they want you to wait for instructions from them before mailing those letters out?
Yes.
And did they tell you that you would require to take photos of the letters that you sent out and send the photos to the police?
Yes.
The next time you met with them was January 8th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during your January 8th meeting, they told you that they were going to get you a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
They asked you to get your own lawyer, and you told them you had no money to hire a lawyer?
Correct.
And they said that they would get a lawyer for you and pay that lawyer's fee, correct?
Correct.
They said that they would find ways to apply and pay either part or all of the legal fees.
Yes.
Did they then tell you that you were to meet with them again and bring your computer with you with a VPN installed?
Yes.
Did they make you write a document detailing all of your investments in G-Series?
Yes.
And did it take you 3 days to write such a letter and send it to them?
Yes.
Did they give you the email addresses of where to send those letters?
Yes.
And did you send those letters to those email addresses?
Yes.
And did they tell you that if you did not get a reply by Sunday, January 10th, you were to email them again and show them a tough attitude?
Yes.
Did you meet with them again on January 14th of 2021?
Yes.
At that time, did you bring with your computer with the VPN installed?
Yes.
Did they then ask you to use your computer and show them the complaints that you had been forced to file?
Yes.
Were these legitimate complaints, Mr. E?
The interpreter said, interpreter request repetition from counsel.
Were these legitimate complaints, Mr. E?
No, that was not my intention.
Let me show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 60704. Do you recognize this document? Not to the jury, please.
The interpreter said, Your Honor, interpreter cannot see my screen.
Yes, that is my report.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, the defense moves to admit 60,704 into evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 60704, received in evidence. By Ms. Schrofa.
Is this the complaint that you filed?
Yes.
Was the complaint truthful? Can we scroll down, please, and the jury has it? Let's just keep scrolling down. Who told you what to say in this complaint?
Mr. Finkel said, asked and answered.
The court said, overruled.
Do I need to continue answering?
The court said yes. Go ahead.
When I fill this report, I opened Dodo teaching of reporting, how to report, and there were few police sitting right next to me. I fill the form according to their instructions, every word.
Was the complaint in your mind truthful?
The data was correct.
And if you could scroll down, please, and down. This portion where there is a description of the incident. Was that portion correct or truthful?
Regarding the data in the complaint that were accurate.
Where you said that you suspected G dollar and G series of financial fraud, was that truthful?
The description was not accurate.
And did you file this complaint with the FBI?
Yes.
And did you file the exact same complaint with the Attorney General?
Yes, the Office of Attorney General of New York.
With whom else did you file this complaint?
The court said, Ms. Schroff lead.
Did you file this complaint with the New York Times?
I emailed the New York Times to report this, and the contents were pretty much similar.
And you also did that with the Wall Street Journal, correct?
Correct.
And the National Security Police told you to do that, correct?
Correct.
And you did it because that was the only way for you to protect yourself and your family?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
Correct.
The court said, overruled.
At that time, did you have a lawyer?
No.
Do you have a lawyer now?
Yes, I do.
Is he in the courtroom for you today?
Yes.
Did you hire the first lawyer that was given to you while you were still in China?
No, it wasn't me.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
Were you asked to do anything in contact with that lawyer, the one they gave you in China?
No contact was allowed.
Let me show you what is marked only for the witness and the court and the government, DX 60700. Do you see this document, Mr. E?
Yes.
Were you required to sign it?
No.
Did you sign it at the end?
No.
And did there come a time when you saw this document? If I could show him page 2, please.
I did saw this document.
And when was that?
My current attorney sent it to me.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, I move 60,700 into evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, I have a question. Sir, do you know where your current attorney received this document from? You don't have personal knowledge of that, do you?
The witness said, no, I don't.
Mr. Finkel said, authentication objection.
By Ms. Schrofa.
Can I show you page 2, please? Mr. E, did your present lawyer give this document to you?
Yes.
Did you use this document to then complain about this lawyer?
No.
Continued on next page. By Ms. Schrofa.
Do you recognize the document?
The document he showed me at that time has my signature on it, but I remember clearly I have never signed the document.
Okay. Did you hire a lawyer? Can I go back to the first page, please? Did you ever hire a lawyer named Arthur Angel?
This attorney was hired by the police from MSS.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, I think it's authenticated enough. I move to admit 60700.
The court said, I don't agree.
Ms. Schrofa said, Okay. Mr. E, did you meet with your lawyer, Mr. Ginsburg?
Can you repeat the question?
Did you meet with your lawyer, Peter?
Yes.
Where?
He came to my home the first time.
And did he tell you where he got this letter from?
This letter, he sent it to me by email.
And can you look at page 3 of the document? Whose signature is that?
I did not sign this document.
Okay, but did you get a copy of that with your signature on it?
Correct.
And did you tell a judge in this very building that that was not your signature?
Mr. Finkel said, object to that.
The court said, overruled.
This signature is my signature, but I did not sign this document.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. Your Honor, this document is on a civil docket. It is authenticated by that method as well. And I renew my request that it be admitted into evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, I'm happy to voir dire further.
The court said, go ahead.
Voir dire examination. By Mr. Finkel.
Sir, you don't know who created this document, correct?
I do not know.
And the only information you know about where this document is from is what your attorney told you. Correct?
Yes, this document was sent to me by my attorney.
And you don't? Mr. Finkel said, and could we go back? And this document is in English, correct, sir?
The interpreter said, Counsel, if you can speak up.
This document is in English, correct?
Ms. Schrofa said, is what?
Mr. Finkel said, in English.
Yes.
The court said, let's go to the first page. Do you recognize the first page of this document?
The witness said, yes.
The court said, let's go to page 2. Do you recognize the second page?
The witness said, yes.
The court said, is there a page 3? Do you recognize page 3?
The witness said, yes. What do you mean by recognize?
The court said, in other words, you said that this is not your real signature. But do you recall having seen this page that contains the fake signature?
The interpreter said, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
The court said, you have said this is not your real signature. But do you recall having seen this page with a fake signature?
The witness said, the first time I saw the signature, I know that was not my signature.
The court said, all right. It is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 60700 received in evidence. By Ms. Schrofa.
Let me show you the first page. It says here that it's you and your wife who are hiring this lawyer. Correct?
Correct.
That was a false statement. Is that right?
It was not to say this was false. I did sign a power of attorney, but it was not this one.
Okay. Can you just, Mr. E, let me just scroll down, okay? And ask you if you wanted to have the $260,000 that you had invested returned back to you.
The interpreter said, Counsel, the interpreter would request repetition.
Okay. You see the highlighted portion there? Yes or no, Mr. E?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you did not want this money returned to you, correct?
Correct.
You want it to stay invested in the G series, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Schrofa said, and let's just scroll down. You know what? I'm okay with the rest of the document. I can move forward. Your Honor. Thank you. Did the lawyer ever send you a bill for any work that he did?
No.
And let me show you what is DX 60701. Do you recognize this document as a document you signed?
Yes, this document I signed.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. Your Honor, the defense moves to admit the document into evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 60701 received in evidence.
This lawyer never called you, correct?
No.
And you never spoke to him, right?
No.
He filed a complaint against Miles Gua on your behalf, correct?
Yes.
And you never authorized the filing of that complaint voluntarily, correct?
Correct. I was coerced into signing my signature.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. And let me move forward. If the jury has, it was published, right? Thank you. We can take that down. And let me ask you something, Mr. E. Did there come a time when you left China?
Correct.
When was that?
I left on November 5th, 2022.
Did you leave China, go to Macau, from Macau, go to Dubai, and from Dubai, come to the United States?
Correct.
Was your wife with you?
Correct.
And the rest of your family also traveled with you?
Correct.
Did you then move to Washington, D.C.?
I moved to Virginia.
I'm sorry. Okay, Virginia. Did you then from Virginia contact that lawyer named Arthur Rangel?
Correct.
Did you send him an email and tell him to stop representing you in all cases of GDV and other investments in New York?
Correct.
The court said, "One moment. You may continue."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Do you want me to repeat the question?" Oh, I think he answered yes, right?
The court said, "He answered your last question."
The witness said, "I already answered your question."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Sorry about that, Mr. E.
By Ms. Shrofa.
Did you tell anyone else that you wanted this lawyer to stop representing you?"
Correct.
Let me show you what's marked as DX60695. Do you see this document?
Yes.
And did you write it?
Correct.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, we move the document into evidence at this time."
Mr. Finkel said, "Sir, you wrote this document in English?"
The witness said, "I wrote this document and sent it to the judge."
Mr. Finkel said, "Objection."
The court said, "You wrote the document?"
The witness said, "Correct."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Defendant's Exhibit 60695 received in evidence.
The court said, "Counsel, would you step up for a moment?"
Continued on next page. At the sidebar,
The court said, "Does anyone know whether Mr. Rangel was disciplined in connection with this?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "I know that there was a complaint filed against him." Mr. Rangel took the position that he had done nothing wrong, that he in fact had been deceived by the intermediary. This is all that I know secondhand, but I think Mr. Ginsburg and Mr. Kamraju know more. I'm a latecomer.
Mr. Finkel said, "We spoke to Mr. Angel. That's his understanding, is that he was operating through an intermediary and was following the client's direction. It's unclear exactly what happened behind the intermediary."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, it would be an ethical violation to file a single document on the word of an intermediary. The law does not allow that."
Mr. Finkel said, "I assume Ms. Schroff is not getting into that."
Ms. Shrofa said, "No."
The court said, "I raise this because I have an obligation to go to the disciplinary committee if I see this sort of misconduct. So there's already been a complaint."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, "All right. Thank you."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
In open court,
The court said, "You may continue."
by Ms. Shrofa.
Mr. E., this document is written in English, right?
Yes.
And you told the jury you wrote it, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell them how you wrote it?
How do I wrote it?
Yes. Do you write in English?
Yes.
Okay. And you sent it to the judge, Judge Clark, right? Ms. Shrofa said, "I'll move forward, Your Honor." I think that the letter actually does speak for itself. So if I could just have the jury have a minute to review it, I can move forward.
The court said, "Go ahead."
Did there come a time, Mr. E., that you did in fact get a new lawyer?
After this, yes, I did find a new attorney.
Now, Mr. E., I showed you a set of documents today in court, correct? Have I ever gone over those documents with you?
Yes, you showed me before.
Okay. And was your lawyer there when I showed you this document?
Are you talking about the previous attorney?
No. I'm saying I never. Let me ask you again. Did I, Sabrina, ever show you any of these documents?
No.
Okay. And have I ever met with you without your lawyer being present?
No.
And how many times have I met with you along with your lawyer?
Twice.
Mr. E., do you feel safe living in the United States today?
Not completely safe.
And could you tell the jury why?
Mr. Finkel said, "Objection."
The court said, "Overruled. You may go ahead."
Because the police and other force from the Chinese government exist in United States.
On January 25th or 26th of 2023, did you give an interview in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Did you talk about what the CCP had done to you?
Mainly about the CCP and the police from MSS. How did they interrogate me?
Mr. E., did you invest $180,000 in GDV?
Correct.
Did you ever voluntarily want that money back?
Mr. Finkel said, asked and answered.
The court said, "You may answer."
I do not want this money back.
Did you invest in H dollar?
Are you referring to G dollar?
If you invested in G dollar, how much did you invest?
$30,000.
The interpreter said, "Excuse me, Your Honor." He asked the interpreter to help him turn up the volume. Give me a second. We may proceed.
$30,000.
Did you buy a G Club membership?
Yes.
And did you buy a G Club membership because you came to the United States as an adult and you wanted the camaraderie, friendship, and services that G Clubs offered?
Mr. Finkel said, objection.
The court said, overruled.
Yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, I have nothing further.
The court said, cross-examination.
Cross-examination. By Mr. Finkel.
Sir, you're a follower of Miles Gua, correct?
Yes.
The court said, Mr. Finkel, speak into the microphone.
Mr. Finkel said, yes, Your Honor. You're a follower of Miles Gua, correct?
Yes.
Sitting here today, you're a follower of Miles Gua, correct?
Are you talking about as a follower? Yes.
And you're a member of the D.C. Farm, right? Washington, D.C. Farm?
Previously, for a long period of time, yes. Currently, no.
Okay. And you participated in protests, correct?
I've participated in some protests.
Mr. Finkel said, could we pull up GXCO 400, please? This is a picture of you, right, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Finkel said, government offers GXCO 400.
The court said, sir, there are two individuals. Actually, there are four individuals in this photograph. Which one is you?
Mr. Finkel said, you're in the white hat, right, sir?
The witness said, correct.
Ms. Schrofa said, there are three people in a white hat.
Mr. Finkel said, you're in the white hat with a green scarf, correct, sir?
The witness said, correct.
The court said, so you're the second from the left, is that it?
The witness said, correct.
The court said, all right. It is admitted. Go ahead.
Mr. Finkel said, thank you, Your Honor.
Government's Exhibit CO 400 received in evidence. By Mr. Finkel.
And this is you participating in a protest outside the Capitol building, right?
Correct.
And you were protesting the SEC, right?
Yes.
And this was a farm protest, correct? Organized by the farm?
Correct.
And you're wearing a new federal state of China hat, right, sir?
Yes.
And that's Miles Gua's organization, New Federal State of China, right?
That I don't know.
You don't know that Miles Gua founded the New Federal State of China?
That I know.
And you're wearing a New Federal State of China hat, right, sir?
Yes.
And the star on your hat is a seven-sided star, correct?
Yes.
And that represents Brother 7, Miles Gua, right?
This protest was organized, initiated by our farm.
Right. And the star on your hat has 7 points, correct?
Correct.
And it's a 7-pointed star because it represents Miles Gua, who calls himself Brother 7, correct?
You cannot understand like that.
And you gave an interview to Infest CTV during this protest, correct?
No.
This is you being asked questions by this gentleman on the left in the hood, correct?
This is our own farm's live stream.
And you were being interviewed by your farm's live stream, correct?
Correct.
And you told the farm live stream that the SEC is colluding with the Chinese Communist Party, right?
I did not say that.
Mr. Finkel said, we can take that down. The letter that, well, withdrawn. Sir, you have an attorney named Peter Ginsburg, correct?
Correct.
And he represents you with respect to this matter, right?
Correct.
And you also have an attorney in your immigration case. Isn't that right?
What attorney? Yes.
And his name is Yongbing Zhang, correct?
Zhang Yongbing.
Mr. Finkel said, and we could pull up GX 121. This is your immigration attorney, right?
Correct.
And you met with him along with Mr. Gua's attorneys, correct?
Ms. Schrofa said, could the government clarify which of Mr. Gua's attorneys he's talking about?
The court said, Mr. Finkel?
Mr. Finkel said, yes.
When I was meeting this attorney, Mr. Gua's attorney was not there.
On May 19th, you had a meeting with this gentleman and Mr. Gua's former attorneys, correct?
I do. I cannot be certain whether he was Mr. Gua's former attorney.
Did you have a meeting with this man, Mr. Yongbing Zhang, and other attorneys in which you described what happened to you in China?
Yes.
And so Mr. Zhang was present for that, correct?
He was.
And Mr. Zhang, you know he's an associate of Miles Guo. He's a follower of Miles Guo too, right?
I know.
Mr. Finkel said, we can take that down and put up CO 419, just for the witness. The man on the left in the red jacket, that's your immigration attorney, right?
Correct.
And the man in the center with the sunglasses, that's Miles Guo, right?
Yes.
Mr. Finkel said, government offers CO 419.
Ms. Shrofa said, we have no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit CO 419 received in evidence.
And so, sir, this is a photograph of Miles Guo in the center of the table, right?
Ms. Shrofa said, I believe that's asked and answered.
Mr. Finkel said, the jury didn't see it.
Ms. Shrofa said, the man with the sunglasses is in the middle.
The court said, so that's Miles Guo with the sunglasses in the middle, right?
The witness said, yes, Mr. Guo was in the middle. By Mr. Finkel.
Right. And on the left in the red coat, that's your immigration attorney, Mr. Zhang, right?
Correct.
Mr. Finkel said, and if we can take that down. Or actually, sorry. Could you put that back up, CO 419? Sorry about that. And the man on the left in the gray, with the sort of buzz cut, that's Long Island David, right?
Correct.
Mr. Finkel said, take that down. If we could put up CO 418 just for the witness. The man on the left, that's your immigration attorney, correct, Mr. Zhang?
Yes.
And the man in the center, that's Long Island David, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Finkel said, government offers CO 418.
Ms. Shrofa said, may I, Your Honor?
The court said, go ahead.
Voir dire examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
Mr. E, have you ever seen this photo?
I don't recall.
Did you take it?
No. It was not me.
Ms. Shrofa said, I could object, but it's fine. I don't mind.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit CO 418 received in evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, if we could publish it, please, Ms. Loftus. Thank you.
By Mr. Finkel.
Sir, now that we can see it on the left, that's your immigration attorney, Mr. Zhang, right? And in the center is Long Island David, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware of NFSC Speaks, correct?
I do.
That's a program where they talk about Miles Guo's criminal case, correct? NFSC Speaks?
I don't know what they were discussing.
Well, you're aware of NFSC Speaks, right?
I don't know what this logo is.
I'm not asking about the logo. Sir, NFSC Speaks is a program, right? It's a broadcast on Twitter. Correct?
Could you repeat that again? An F what?
NFSC, the new federal state of China, speaks. It's a broadcast on Twitter, correct?
I only know an FSC.
NFSC does broadcasts on Gear as well?
Yes, they would post Getter.
And Mr. Zhang, your immigration attorney, he appears on some of those NFSC broadcasts, right?
I could not be certain.
Well, you know Mr. Zhang comments about the criminal trial and evidence that he wishes would be introduced at the trial. Right?
I don't know.
You know Mr. Zhang is Mr. Guo's immigration attorney also, right?
I do not know.
You know Mr. Zhang has been getting nightly transcripts of this trial?
I do not know.
Mr. Finkel said, just one moment, please. We can take that down. Now, sir, your decision to invest in GTV, you made that decision after listening to Miles Guo's broadcasts. Correct?
That was not the main reason.
But you listened to Miles Guo's broadcasts, right?
Yes.
And Miles Guo's broadcasts discussed GTV, correct?
Could you repeat that question?
Miles Guo, in his broadcasts, he talked about GTV.
Yes.
You heard those broadcasts, correct?
I heard some.
He gives a lot of broadcasts, right?
He frequently talk about those matters during live stream.
And Miles Guo also talks about G clubs in his broadcasts, correct?
Yes, he mentioned.
And you listen to those broadcasts too, correct?
Yes, I heard.
And you believe in Miles Guo, right?
I do.
You trust Miles Guo.
I do.
You want to help Miles Guo, right?
Correct, but more like helping myself.
And in addition to helping yourself, you want to help Miles Guo, right?
Ms. Shrofa said, asked and answered.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Correct.
Mr. Finkel said, nothing further.
The court said, redirect?
Redirect examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
Mr. E, let me pull up for you, if I may, CO 419, please. I think that's what the government showed you. You see that photograph that they showed you?
Yes.
And you see the man in red? They've asked you questions about him?
Correct.
Does he send you nightly trial transcripts?
No.
When you came to the United States, did you need help with getting asylum here?
Correct.
Did he help you get asylum?
Yes.
Did your asylum application get filed because of him?
Correct.
Do you have asylum now?
I have work authorization card. I have social security number. I think that counts.
Thank you. Mr. E, do you see this man seated here with white hair in the front row right there?
Yes.
Who is that?
My current attorney.
And what's his name?
Peter something. I usually refer him as Peter.
And was this man in the red coat with Peter when Peter was preparing you for your testimony today?
He was not. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Did Peter and this man in the red coat ever meet together with you about this case for which you are here today?
They did not meet me at the same time together.
Ever. Ever, right?
Never.
I've never met you with the man in this red jacket, right?
No.
And Peter Ginsburg has never been in a video with Miles Guo, right?
No.
Now when the prosecutor asked you these questions about trusting and helping Miles Guo, you said, I also did it to help myself, correct?
I want to help myself more.
And how would you like to help yourself, Mr. E?
First, my biggest goal is to overthrow the CCP. Because I filed a false claim. I have to clarify the truth.
And I'm assuming your other goal is to be happy, right, Mr. E?
Correct.
Ms. Shrofa said, I have nothing further.
The court said, recross?
Mr. Finkel said, no, Your Honor.
The court said, thank you, sir. You may step out of the courtroom.
Witness excused.